and please correct me if I get it wrong, the person who told me. But Marvin's brother Joe, also a veteran, was a graduate from Ardmore High School, and he was older than Marvin, and he went on to become the superintendent of the old soldiers' home, and the stone building up there is actually called the Kern Building. That's pretty interesting to me. All right, so Marvin left South Dakota and went to California and worked in an airplane factory for about 2 years. Then the war came, and he enlisted in the United States Army Air Force. Now, there was no Air Force then, it was all part of the Army. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about his position, because this is what really makes Marvin a fascinating individual. He enlisted in the Army Air Force as a bomber crew, as a turret gunner. Now, if you can remember the B-17s, the small cupola in the bottom that had the machine gun, that was his position. He was, as you can see, he was a relatively small, slender man, and that's one reason he was selected for that position. Now, to be on a bomber crew in World War II was like a death warrant. You weren't expected to survive. And initially in the war, the stress was so great and the likelihood of your survival was so small that if you were to complete 25 missions, you got sent home. They also gave them high rank. Marvin was barely enlisted. He was given the rank of staff sergeant. That's a high rank for someone who's 24 years old. And they were treated as well as possible on the ground. But and the records are not well. My research, but they only think there's only 2 full bomber crews that made it 25 missions. Only 2. And then as the war progressed, although they could produce bombers rapidly, they could not fill the positions for the bomber crew. And so they extended the number of missions from 25 to 35 before you could be sent home. By the end of the war, it had been extended to 50. Hardly anyone made it. Marvin made it. He made it 50 missions, and here's a picture of him in front of his plane after his 50th mission. He got to go home. And so he's truly an American hero. So let's move on with Marvin's life, because it's just as fascinating. Marvin came back to South Dakota, to Fall River County, and he picked up ranching again, which is what his father did. And I had an interview with his son, Bruce, and he was quite emotional. But he told me about his father, and he said that his father was an extremely hard-working man. He, in a very affectionate way, said he was a very hard SOB. He was very difficult, I think, because of a lot of the stress that he experienced in World War II when he came home. He married a woman he met at the dance down at the, and helped me out with this, the city auditorium, which is now the parking lot for the sheriff's office. She was 11 years his younger, and I think they were married for 52 years. They had 2 children. Marvin said that his father didn't speak much about the war because of things he saw and maybe things that happened that you just don't want to talk about. But he mentioned a few things that he had heard. He remembered his father talking about cutting a bullet out of the turret just inches from his head. He remembers talking about him talking about poking his head up and seeing the radio man, his head splattered all over the walls from shrapnel. I mean, these are the kind of things that he experienced and the things that he lived through. He also mentioned to his son that he, in American ingenuity, used parts off broken planes and invented a stove, not a wood stove, a stove to keep everybody warm in the cold months. And even the officers were amazed at what he had invented. And but unfortunately, he couldn't describe to me exactly what that was. But you know, that's your basic American ingenuity. This man was definitely all American. When he died, he said that he could not say the Pledge of Allegiance or sing the national anthem without weeping. He was very patriotic. But on the other hand, he said he hated the government. He hated everything about the government, and he did everything he could to keep the government out of his life. And as a tribute to how hard Marvin worked, when he died, he had over 6,000 acres, 500 head of sheep, and 120 head of cattle, and he was debt-free. That is truly amazing. Anyway, he's a relative newcomer to the cemetery, and I wish that anyway, I'm gonna finish up with a quote that Bruce gave me, and I'm gonna read verbatim so I don't get it wrong. He said that his father instilled in him tremendous values, and he always used to tell him, stand up straight, don't shuffle your feet, open the door, say please and thank you. If you borrow something, treat it better than you would your own and return it, and always treat others with respect. Marvin Kern. Now, if you'll follow to the next grave, the next